Good evening. Hello, it's your old pal, Mr. Weber. It's time for Mr. Weber's Web O Mystery. Oh, yeah. Brand new night. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy you're watching this because this really, I love all the shows that I do, and I do a bunch of shows, and I do them with great people. And you'll hear more about that as I hype up a big weekend that we have going on here at the Weber Internet Thingy. But this show is my heart. This show is me listening to old time radio shows right along with you, and feel free to chat with me, and we'll put our little pithy sayings up on the screen, and we'll have fun. Anyway, we should get this show started. Here, intro, which I made.
Mr. Weber's Web O Mystery. Ah. Mr. Weber's Web O Mystery. Oh, oh, oh. Mr. Weber's Web O Mystery. Ah. Mr. Weber's Web O Mystery. Oh, oh.
Oh, my friend. Hang on, let me turn this down. Like every episode. There we go. Okay. What an episode I have for you. And my good friend Raphael is with us. Hey, Raphael. Raphael says, of course I'm over 65, so when I say I'm going to be there, I show up. And you're a gentleman, a man of his word, Raphael. And that is one of those. The hat! Spider Hat is ready for a great show. And I hope you are as well. So, let's start talking about... I got in touch with Raphael through YouTube comments. That was, we haven't connected on social media yet. And Raphael, we'll find a way to do that. But he said, a call or a text would be easier. Raphael, I should just call you and just play a radio show over the phone for you. That would work. Thanks to everybody who's watching this right now, whether you're watching it live or watching it later. And it's going to be fun. I should get moving because I have a kind of a long show for you tonight. First off, let me just say that the shows we're going to listen to tonight are, well, the major show, the feature presentation, is an episode of Escape, which is one of my favorite radio shows. It's really terrific, high quality, great writing. Really was just one of the great radio shows that people might not remember. There are, very famous radio shows. Escape, not necessarily one of them. So I'm really happy to send that to you, share that with you. But also in the smaller, this is more like a 12-minute episode. We'll be listening to Blackstone, the Magic Detective. And we're going to listen to that first. So let's get... and to answer your question, Raphael, this episode does not star Vincent Price, although Vincent Price would have been amazing for this story. And it's just one of my favorite stories. I'll have more as we go. Let's start with Blackstone, the Magic Detective. And if there are any long instrumental moments, I will talk over those. It's one of those things I do. So let me dig this up. Once again, thanks to the YouTube channels that put these shows up, I don't have to make the video because you made it, and I really appreciate that. Nikola Tesla Wireless Radio, which is a good channel, good YouTube channel. And if you're ever thinking about finding a collection of radio shows, this is a good place to go, because the Tesla Wireless Radio channel, great variety, really good shows, decent quality. I think you're going to like the quality of these shows. Here we go. First show of the night. Blackstone, the Magic Detective. This is from 1949. And the episode for the spooky season of October is The Ghost in the Crypt.
The Magic Detective, starring the world's greatest living magician, Blackstone. He tells you the inside story of The Ghost in the Crypt. And right after the story, Blackstone will explain tricks that you yourself can perform. Reveal the guarded secrets of the world's greatest living magician. And now, stand by for Blackstone, the Magic Detective.
Hey, what's going on here? What's all the dark for?
Hush, Alan.
Hush?
Uh-huh. We're waiting for a ghost.
A ghost?
A ghost?
What on earth are you talking about?
We're waiting for a ghost. He's coming to visit us.
Well, let's turn on the lights then. We'll be able to see him.
Oh, he'll make himself seen, light or no light.
Have you ever seen him?
I haven't.
No?
No, but Blackstone has. Oh, darn it.
I'll take it. Turn the lights on, Rhoda.
Right.
Blackstone speaking. Yes? Oh, I see. Yes, I'll go right on out there. All right, I'll report back to you. Goodbye. Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to postpone our little meeting with my ghost, Rhoda.
Huh?
We're going out to meet some real ones.
Well, what do you mean?
I was talking to a friend of mine this morning at Wright Malkin.
Oh, I remember him. Didn't his uncle leave him a fortune in uncut jewels?
That's right, but he hid them somewhere around the old mansion, the one he left to his widow. The nephew was supposed to have to find them.
Did he find them?
No, he didn't. He thinks they're hidden in the cellar of the old house.
Well, why doesn't he go and look for them there?
The old lady won't let him in.
You should send somebody else then.
He can't. The old house is supposed to be haunted and no one dares go in at night.
Well, what are you supposed to do?
Dwight Malkin says he's just come from the house and that there are all sorts of flickering blue lights and banging shutters and queer noises out there. He wants me to find out about it and get into the cellar if I can.
Well, what are we waiting for?
Nothing. You want to come too, Alan?
Me? Sure, I'd like to.
Rhoda, here, wear this cape over your dress. It may be chilly out there by the old house. Come on.
Well, ma'am, we sure got rid of your snooping nephew quick tonight.
That's right. He can't come in here. A ghost will scare him away.
Do you think, ma'am, that he knows we found the jewels?
No, and he never will. Those jewels should have been mine. Ned promised them to me, and then he left them to that nephew of his. But he'll never get them while I'm alive.
Listen,
It's a car.
it's stopping here. Somebody's getting out of it. They ain't scared. Look out the window.
Let me see. The fool. Isn't he afraid of ghosts?
Who is it, ma'am? Anyone you know?
It's Blackstone, that magician.
What's he doing here?
I'm going down to the cellar. You stay here.
What'll I do?
Let him go wherever he wants to. Don't you bother him.
What if he goes to the cellar?
I'll watch him from there. He'll come down in 10 minutes, and that will be the end of Blackstone.
You're not afraid of ghosts, are you, Alan?
Me?
Mhm.
Oh, no, not me.
Good. I guess I'm not then.
Look, Rhoda, Blackstone said we should follow him if he wasn't out in 10 minutes.
I know. It's 10 minutes now. Well, come on.
Well, don't you want me to sort of stay here and wait for you? You could call me if you needed help or anything.
No, sir. I won't go in there alone. Oh, not that I'm afraid of anything, but... Say, you are scared.
Me? Oh, no. Come on.
Why are you hanging back?
Oh, you know, ladies first and all that sort of thing. Or is it all that sort of rot?
There's nothing to be afraid of. Nothing. Blackstone says that if I hear a ghost, all I have to do is to turn around and walk backwards. That's all there is to it. I'm not afraid.
Well, what are your teeth chattering for, then?
Those are your teeth, Alan Kent, and you know it.
Yes, they are.
Well, here we are. Open the door, why don't you?
I am. Don't rush me.
You don't hear anything, do you, Alan?
Well, sort of creaking.
It's a shutter. It isn't a ghost. There are no such thing as ghosts. There are no such thing as ghosts.
You said that.
No, I wish it weren't so dark.
Rhoda,
Yes, Alan?
there's nothing in it, and those noises aren't ghosts. Don't you think maybe you ought to walk backwards?
No, I guess it wouldn't do any harm, since you're afraid. There, 5 steps backwards, Blackstone said. Oh, what's that?
The ghost! The ghost of Ned Malcolm!
Oh, something went through that window.
Not something. Somebody.
We better get down to Blackstone in the cellar.
Yes, here's the door right where he said it would be. Come on.
You bet. I don't like it here alone.
Well, you're not alone. I'm here.
That's what I said, alone.
Stop that, Mr. Blackstone. Stop that digging.
Who are you?
I'm Mrs. Malcolm. Thank you for digging up my jewels, Mr. Blackstone.
Your nephew's jewels, you mean?
No, mine. And now, Mr. Blackstone, I'm very much afraid that I shall have to ask Jake to shoot you. I've got a gun, so don't you try to move.
Well, if you have a gun, why don't you shoot me yourself?
No, I'd rather Jake would do it. I really don't like shooting people at all. It's too messy. Listen, that's Jake coming now. I told him to be here in 10 minutes, and Jake always obeys me. Here he is now.
Blackstone!
Turn around, Rhoda, turn around.
Do you have a ghost?
Turn around.
Oh, okay.
No, it's Ned. It's Ned. Oh, don't hurt me. I promise I can have the jewels. I
Blackstone, why did I scare everybody into fits every time I turned around?
Look, let's not even talk about it anymore. I don't want to know what was going on. I just want to forget if I can.
Well, turn off the light, Rhoda.
Not that. Anything but that.
Oh, stop being so silly, Alan. There's nothing to be afraid of.
When you turn those lights on again, I'll be dead. And then you'll all be sorry.
Oh!
What? She's screaming at. I've got my eyes shut, and I'd rather not open them.
Well, then open them and look over there, Alan.
It's a face, a glowing, silvery face of an old man.
Now I know I'm going to die.
That's why you scared everyone so. That's the face of Ned Malcolm.
Now I know I've lost my mind through sheer unadulterated terror.
That face is painted on the back of your cape, Rhoda. Painted on with phosphorus.
Oh, and so another mystery was solved by magic. Alan, do you think it'd take your mind off things if Blackstone showed us a trick? I'll turn on the light.
All right.
Well, how about a bit of hypnotism, Alan?
Who's to be the victim?
You are. Now look. First I close my fists. Then I set one on top of the other in front of my chest.
Right.
Now grab my wrists and look straight in my eyes.
All right. What do I do now?
Try to draw my fists apart, sideways.
That's a cinch.
It isn't as easy as you think, Alan.
It isn't?
Mm-mm.
Just watch. Hey, I can't budge him.
You're hypnotized.
Oh, I am, huh? I get it. You were just strong enough to keep your fists together. Now, if I tried that with Rhoda.
Go right ahead, Alan. Here, I'll plant one fist on the other. Now, grab my wrist.
All right. I'm gripping them.
Huh?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You're hypnotized already, Alan.
Uh-huh.
Oh, no, and I'm going to look right into Rhoda's eyes, because that is a cinch. And I'm not hypnotized. Watch. Here they go.
Only they don't go, Alan.
Hey, wait a minute. What is this? Wait, I'll try again. Hey, maybe I am hypnotized.
Then you give up?
Certainly do. You win, Rhoda. Just as Blackstone did. Only if this is a trick.
It is a trick, Alan. And as soon as you've snapped out of your trance, we'll explain it to you.
I promised I would talk during the breaks. Sorry. Normally these breaks are built in so a commercial can be inserted in. Of course, we're a non-commercial show. So the best I could do is yak.
Well, Alan, have you figured it out?
No, Blackstone, I haven't. Tell me, if you will, please, why couldn't I draw your fists apart when you held one on the other?
You were drawing sideways, weren't you, Alan?
Yes, of course, with my hands gripping your wrists.
Well, it was really the difference between push and pull. I was pushing one fist hard upon the other.
And there's more power to a push than to a pull.
That's right. In pulling sideways, you were diverting your strength. You'd have to be a lot stronger than I am to draw my fists apart, Alan.
But I certainly am a lot stronger than Rhoda, yet I couldn't draw her fists apart.
Well, that's because Rhoda added a special trick that you didn't suspect.
That's right, Alan. You see, Blackstone told me how to work it.
Show Alan the system, Rhoda.
Well, I put my right fist on my left, and then I tell you to look into my eye.
Only this time, watch Rhoda's fist instead, and let him see what happens, Rhoda.
Look, Alan. I simply loosen my right fist and lift my left thumb.
Into your right fist.
Exactly, that's it. Then I grab that thumb good and tight. Well, just try to draw my fist apart now.
I wouldn't have a chance.
That's right.
Well, for once, you're right, Alan. And that's the trick of making your fists stick together, one on top of the other, no matter how hard anyone tries to draw them apart. I hope you like that trick, ladies and gentlemen. And until next time, this is Blackstone saying good magic and goodbye.
Be with us next time when the world's greatest living magician, Blackstone, tells us the story of the accusing corpse and explains more tricks that you yourself can perform. Listen in again to Blackstone, the world's greatest living magician.
I just love it. I love it. All right, let me get in there. And not yet. Okay. So yeah, that is Blackstone Magic Detective. And it was a show from the Mutual Broadcasting System. It actually debuted in the late 40s. So it was about 10 years after writer Walter Gibson had already created and really made the star a star out of The Shadow. He didn't do a lot of radio work for the Shadow series, Walter Gibson. But one of the things that he always did was he worked for newspapers. And he would write columns. He would write little bits and features. And one of those bits and features would be Walter Gibson was an amateur magician. And he would tell you in a little tiny article on like the funnies page how to do a magic trick. So writing this radio show came very naturally to him. So there you go. We might listen to more Blackstone down the line. It's a fun show. I really enjoy it. Taking a look at your comments, Joe says, as compared to the world's greatest dead magician. Well, we did mention Harry Houdini first. So yes, I think that would be Houdini. What? No secret message decoder ring, says Raphael. And then Joe says, be sure to drink your Ovaltine. Which Raphael says, credit commercial. I enjoy the background info. My pleasure, my friend. This really is one of my favorite subjects in the world, is radio shows. And what a treat it is to do this show and be able to share with people. And what's the word? I always have a hard time with this word. Not caretaking. I'm not archiving. I am. No, what is the word? Joe Townsville, you're a wordsmith. Curating. I am curating radio shows for my friends. That's really what the Webo Mystery is all about. That and Spider Hat. Because let's face it, everybody loves Spider Hat. I also love this time of year. That doesn't look like anything. It's a little there we go. Yeah, I'll probably be cutting that soon. There were oh, Joe says, I thought there were no commercials on this show. There aren't supposed to be any commercials on this show, but we do have to mention certain things that are happening, and I don't want to do it all at the end. So I do want to tell you a brand new show is going to be on the Weber internet thingy, and that starts this Saturday. And I hope you'll join us because Joe Townsell, who's in the chat right now, and myself are bringing back Star Trek programming, something I've been doing ever since the pandemic. And used to do it with my friend Flobo Boyce. I would appear on his show. And then when he was done with that show, I created a show. One of Flobo's favorite guests was Joe Townsell. When I was doing my show, I would have Joe on the show as well. And just what a fantastic man Joe Townsell is. Just a great guy to work with. And I'm so encouraged and so confident working with Joe. So we're doing another Star Trek show. This one is called Retro Trekkers. And we're going to start with a fantastic subject, I think, very Star Trek, and that would be the Tribbles. Tribbles appear in 4 different forms in Star Trek programming. The very first time they appeared was in the episode we're going to discuss this coming Saturday, The Trouble with Tribbles, from the original series, sometimes called TOS, of Star Trek. And this classic, we will be recapping it for you. We will be reviewing it, and we want to hear what you have to say about it too. So hopefully you'll join us for that. And that's going to do it for now with promoting that. However, let's get back to, okay, hang on. Let's get back to casting the runes. Now, one of the things that I love about this is actually I saw this in a movie form. There is a movie called Night of the Demon. It's not exactly like the radio show, so you can enjoy both. Night of the Demon, one of my favorite all-time horror movies. It's from the 50s, and it's English. It's in black and white. It stars Dana Andrews. It is a potboiler. It is a visual feast. Very impressive. I really do love that show. As a radio show, I never saw this one coming. I already knew Night of the Demon, and then I'm listening and I'm going, wait, this sounds a lot like Night of the Demon, but it's different in a lot of remarkable ways, and it's really good. I actually haven't heard this one in a couple of years. Gosh, at this point, I was in my old kitchen in my previous house, washing dishes, listening to this, so I haven't heard it in 5 years. So it'll be a thrill to hear it with you. And here we go. Let me find this. Let me find it again. Who is this? Who is my YouTuber who provides us with this? This is from Suspense and Escape Remastered. This is a great YouTube channel. Cannot recommend this one highly enough. And let me answer this question from Raphael. It's an excellent question. Based on the original source material? Yes, the original source material of casting the runes is it's a story called Casting the Runes. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to move the camera in order to read this off of Wikipedia. Is a short story written by the English writer M.R. James. M.R. James had written some very interesting and popular ghost stories. His first book was a huge hit. This comes from his second book, More Ghost Stories. It was published in 1911. It has been adapted on the BBC. It has been adapted for BBC Radio as well as BBC Television. The aforementioned Night of the Demon. It's been adapted on American radio, this episode of Escape. Also, there was an episode of the CBS Radio Mystery Theater, and I haven't even heard that one. So I don't know. Maybe sometime later in the year, we might come back to that one. Let me see what your picture looks like. Okay. Yes. Raphael says, I'm a good setup man. You're excellent. You really are. Yeah, Joe Townsend agrees. Okay, so we have just over half an hour. This show is not terribly long, but we should get right into it. So here we go. Casting the Runes, a show about black magic and murder, right here on Mr. Weber's Web O Mystery.
Had a hard day at the office? Backache from bending over a hot stove all day? Want to get away from it all?
We offer you Escape.
It is midnight, and you are alone. Suddenly the room is plunged into darkness. You sit frozen with terror, because something is there behind you. Something you feared would come. Something from which you must escape.
Escape, produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and carefully plotted to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight, we escape to London, and a world made strange and terrifying by the workings of an ancient barbaric curse, as Montague R. James tells it in his weird story, Casting the Runes.
My name is Edward Dunning. I'm a scientist. I'm used to dealing with facts, not fairy tales. I'm regarded as Britain's leading authority on medieval life. And as such, I've studied much of the ancient fears and barbaric superstitions of those times. I should have been the first to scoff at any suggestion that the ancient powers of evil, the black magic of Teutonic days, could be believed and practiced in the 20th century. A few weeks ago, I should have laughed had you told me that a curse, a hex, could kill a man. Today, I cannot laugh. It has happened to a man I know of. And now, it's happening to me. My first presentiment of danger came on that day a few weeks ago when I dropped in to see Alfred Smythe, Secretary of the National Science Association, and found him in a state of irritation.
Blast it all, Dunning. I almost wish you hadn't been so brutally honest in your report on that Carswell paper.
Why? What's the trouble?
Oh, he's such a frightful fellow. He's raising a terrible row.
You mean Carswell himself?
Yes, it's bad enough a vicious charlatan like that calling himself a scientist. But now he's taking all his vindictiveness out on me.
Sorry, old chap. It's really me he'd like to get at.
As a matter of fact, that's just what his last letter was about. He wants to know what supposed authority wrote the report rejecting his paper.
You didn't give him my name.
Heavens, no. As a matter of fact, Dunning, I haven't and I won't, and for a very special reason. Call it silly, call it crazy, call it what you will. I have an uncanny feeling about that man Carswell.
Why?
Do you know anything about him?
Nothing. I've never seen him. I only know that he wrote a paper called The Truth of Alchemy. It was hopeless.
Precisely. And why was it hopeless?
Well, besides being abominably written, it was supposed to prove that alchemy, black magic, and such rot actually exists. I think the man really believes it.
Undoubtedly he does, and that's what I mean. He lives in an isolated old house in Warwickshire. He's rarely seen elsewhere, and in his whole career he's written only two things. This paper and a history of witchcraft published 10 years ago.
Yes, of course. I remember now. So that's the man.
Yes, and that book was even worse than this paper. The man has a warped mind. I'm sure he's tried every unhealthy experiment in alchemy, witchcraft, and black magic. There's no telling to what lengths of vindictiveness a man like that might go.
Well, it does sound a bit queer, but...
Not queer, Dunning. Evil.
Oh, come. Man has a right to believe what he likes. He has a right to be angry with me. Here I've glibly scoffed at the man's life's work.
Well, perhaps I'm being overly suspicious and imaginative, but I think there's more than anger involved here, Edward. This may sound fantastic to you, but, well, John Harrington wrote the report condemning that witchcraft book of Carswell's 10 years ago. 3 months later, Harrington was dead.
But, Alfred, what's the connection?
Harrington died under very peculiar circumstances. He was walking home alone late one night, and suddenly he screamed, broke into a run, lost his hat and stick, and climbed up a tree. A dead branch gave way. He fell and broke his neck. No one's ever been able to explain why it happened.
Come now, Alfred, surely you're not suggesting...
I don't know what I'm suggesting. I only know that after he reviewed Carswell's book, John Harrington didn't have a moment's peace. Now you've written an unfavorable review of this paper. If I were you, I should keep that fact well hidden.
Oh, Alfred, well, that's ridiculous. Yes, I laughed at Alfred Smythe's fears. How could I have known then that I was to feel the same terror, the same agonized fear which gripped the heart of John Harrington as he crouched, panting, on the branch of a tree, for another moment or two of life, while beneath him the thing came closer and closer. I'd almost forgotten the incident when, a few nights later, I was riding home on a late train. I was half drowsing in my seat, barely keeping awake by looking idly at the car card advertisements. The man directly opposite me must have been doing the same, because suddenly I heard him say,
"Here now, what can that one be advertising?"
I followed his eyes to the window beside my head. What I saw brought me bolt upright in my seat.
In memory of John Harrington, died September 18th, 1937, by falling from a tree. 3 months were allowed. Blimey, what do you say that means, sir?
Well, I don't know. But I did know. Smythe had been right. The affair with Carswell was not over, but only begun. I asked the conductor about the card, but he was as puzzled as I was. He had never seen it before. The card must have been put there expressly for me. That meant that Carswell knew it was I who had reviewed his paper. How had he found out? I got the answer the next day. I was in the select manuscript department of the British Museum doing some research in the quiet, almost deserted room. I'd been working steadily for an hour, oblivious to my surroundings, when suddenly, just at my shoulder, I heard a voice.
Edward Dunning, you are allowed 3 months.
I swung around in my seat. There was no one within 20 feet of me. I sat for a moment, shaken, and then I stooped to pick up the papers I had brushed to the floor. I straightened up to find a stout, elderly gentleman standing in front of me.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes?
May I give you this paper? I think it should be yours.
Oh, yes, so it is. I thought I had them all.
This one seemed to have slid across the floor.
Thank you very much.
Not at all, sir. Good afternoon.
He walked slowly away and out of the door. A kindly, stout old gentleman. But there was something about him that made me feel strange. I went over to the attendant.
Yes, Mr. Dunning?
Did you notice that gentleman I was just speaking to?
Oh, yes, of course.
Can you tell me his name?
Why, that's Mr. Carswell. As a matter of fact, he was asking about you only the other day.
Asking about me?
Well, he asked who were the great authorities on medieval science. Of course, I told him you were the only one in the country.
Oh, I see.
Would you like to meet him, Mr. Dunning? I'll see if I can...
No. No, thank you. It was as simple as that. Now Carswell knew. What would be his next move? What was I to expect? I reached home at dusk, and trouble stood on my doorstep in the long face and stooped form of my family doctor.
I've had to upset your household arrangements, I'm sorry to say, Dunning. I've had to send both your servants to hospital.
But what happened?
Something like ptomaine poisoning, I should think. It's nothing serious.
Well, what could have caused it?
Well, that's the rather odd thing. They tell me they bought some shellfish from a hawker and headed for lunch. I've made inquiries, but I can't find that a hawker called at any other house on this street.
Was this the next move? If so, it had succeeded. I was alone in the house, and my nervousness increased as darkness closed in and the hours advanced toward midnight. I went to bed, but almost immediately I thought I heard something. My study door opening downstairs. I went out and leaned over the banister. There was nothing moving, nothing visible. There was only a sudden, surprising gust of warm air playing about my legs. I went back into my room and locked the door. Suddenly, the lights went out. No doubt it was only a blown fuse, but the chills were playing up and down my spine. I went over to the bed and reached for my watch under the pillow. I suppose I wanted to find out the time. I don't know why. But fumbling on the pillow, my hand touched something far different from a watch. It was like a mouth with sharp teeth and hair around it, not human at all. I fled from my bedroom and spent a long and miserable night locked in the spare room, my ear to the door. But nothing came. I was not disturbed again. In the morning, I searched the house and found nothing unusual. But the mark of fear must have been stamped on my face, for Smythe noticed it next day.
Dunning, you look as if you hadn't slept for weeks. Is anything wrong?
I don't know, Alfred. Yes, there is. Carswell knows.
How?
They told him at the museum.
Of course, we should have thought of that. Has anything happened yet?
I don't know. It's too fantastic. It's probably my mind, hypnotic suggestion or something, but like that man Harrington, I have 3 months left.
Edward.
Must have been hearing things. I'm all on edge. I don't know what to think.
John Harrington had a brother, Henry. Perhaps I'd better get you in touch with him. He might know more about this man, Carswell.
Yes, do it. And quickly. 3 months is not a lot of time. It was arranged. That night, I found myself walking down the dark street that led from the railway station to the Harrington home. It must have been along this same street that John Harrington had walked that last night. Where he had broke and run. It must have been one of these trees bordering the lonely road in which he had spent his last horrible moments. The way was dark, and there was no living soul in sight. And suddenly, complete terror gripped me. Somehow I knew that I was being followed. At first I only felt it, and then I heard it. I walked steadily on for a moment, my stomach like ice. It was getting louder, coming closer. Unconsciously, my step quickened. I could barely control myself. I wanted to scream and run. The thing came closer, closer. I confess, I broke and ran madly for my life. I was at a little side street. I turned down it, doubling back toward the railway station. I thought I would never make it. But finally, bright lights loomed before my eyes, and I think that I never have been so grateful for human companionship.
There's no need to run, sir. The 840 won't be along for another 5 minutes.
I felt very foolish. I couldn't bring myself to walk back down that street to Harrington's. I could only take the train home furtively and call Harrington next morning to beg his forgiveness. He seemed very understanding and asked no questions. Undoubtedly, Smythe had told him something about me. At any rate, he agreed to visit me at a place 2 nights later. And when he arrived and was made welcome, he began to talk about his brother.
Yes, Mr. Dunning. John was in a very bad state for weeks before the accident. If that's what it was. The principal thing seemed to be the notion that he was being followed. It became an obsession.
Yes, I know. I don't think his death was an accident.
Then perhaps you can explain it?
No. But I have one clue. Your brother reviewed a book very severely not long before he died. Just lately, I happened to cross the path of the man who wrote that book.
And his name, of course, is Carswell.
That's right.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, that does it. Before he died, John was beginning to feel, much against his will, that Carswell was at the bottom of his trouble.
Why?
Well, it doesn't make sense.
None of this does. But tell me.
My brother liked music. He went to all the concerts in town, and he made a hobby of collecting the programs. One night, about 3 months before his death, he brought one home and showed it to me. I nearly missed this one, he said. It seems he'd lost his and was hunting for it under his seat when a neighbor, a rather stout elderly gentleman, offered to give John his.
The kind gentleman was Mr. Carswell.
Undoubtedly. I started to leaf through the program and noticed on the second page some rather curious letters, carefully written there in black and red ink. Neither of us could make much of it, except that the letters seemed to be runic.
Runes. Runes, of course.
Well, John thought it might be important, and debated whether he shouldn't try to return the program to the stout gentleman. But just then the door blew open, and a gust of air, of strangely warm air, blew into the room. In a flash, it took the program and blew it straight into the fire.
Yes, your brother was right. He should have returned it.
There was nothing to be done then.
No, perhaps not. But do you know what runic letters mean?
Well, they're old pre-Druid script, I believe. The kind of writing the barbaric tribes used long before the Romans invaded Britain.
Yes, that's right. Casting the runes, they used to call it in the old days. Casting the runes.
What do you mean?
But it was a curse, a hex. In primitive England, people thought by casting the runes, that is, handing a person a piece of paper with certain runic letters on it, that you could put that person out of the way, destroy him. It's an old superstition. And the only way to lift the curse was to return the paper to the one who gave it to you. To give it back without his knowing it.
What? I don't believe that kind of nonsense.
Neither do I.
Then what was it that killed John?
I don't know. Perhaps his fear of the runes, perhaps brooding about it, becoming neurotic, thinking he saw things and heard things and touched things that weren't there. Perhaps his own mind drove him to death.
And what's the difference once you're dead?
No difference at all.
Casting the runes. Oh, it's rubbish.
Yes, of course, but... Good heavens.
What is it?
I just remembered that day at the British Museum. He cast the runes on me. I went swiftly to the writing table, Harrington close behind me. My portfolio was there, full of the scribbled notes I'd been working on that day in the museum. And as I took it in my shaking hands and began leafing desperately through them, one strip of thin, light paper slipped and fluttered toward the open window with uncanny quickness. But Harrington was even quicker and slammed the window shut just in time.
Got it?
Well, thank heaven. If it were lost or destroyed, like your brother's...
Then you wouldn't be able to return it to Mr. Carswell. Yes. Look at it. It's identical with the one John got.
I looked at the flimsy paper. The characters, carefully traced in red and black, were runes, all right. That ancient language used by the Aborigines of prehistoric Britain. I couldn't decipher them. But as Harrington and I stood looking into each other's eyes, each of us could read the other's thoughts. Science or not, 20th century or not, this sheet of foolscap spells death for its possessor.
It spells death for you.
It must be returned.
Yes, I know.
It must go back in such a way that he doesn't know he's received it. That means we can't simply mail it.
No, we can't.
We must do it personally. That'll take doing.
He knows you by sight, doesn't he?
Yes.
You must shave your beard. It'll alter your appearance. He might strike any time.
I have 3 months. That's what the warning said.
We've got to make good on this, Dunning. I've searched 10 years for my brother's murderer, and now he must not escape.
I dare not go near Carswell, so Harrington volunteered to keep a watch on him, to let me know when our chance came to return the runes, if it was ever to come. It was only a night or two after Harrington was there that I arrived home and found a calendar had come in the mail. When I examined it, I found everything after November 19th had been torn out. The next night, I had another envelope of the mail. This time it was a woodcut, an illustration torn out of a book, showing a dark, moonlit road and a man walking on it. And right behind him came a huge, dark shape, some awful demon creature. Under it were written some lines from the Ancient Mariner. And as I sat alone and read them aloud, I felt that now familiar gust of warm air playing about my legs. The man walks on and turns no more his head, because he knows a frightful fiend doth close behind him tread. Now I knew the face of my terror, and it was with me always. Walking down the dark street at night, I heard its footsteps behind me. In my lonely house at midnight, it roamed the halls. Like the Ancient Mariner and John Harrington, I never turned to look. I couldn't. My nerves were going, and I could do nothing but wait. The days, the weeks slipped by, and still Harrington had no plan. I checked off the days on the calendar Carswell had sent. Now there were 8 days remaining, then 6, then 3, 2, 1. It was the evening of the 18th. My last day on Earth was to begin at midnight. I was sitting alone in my living room, bathed in perspiration, fighting to keep my nerves in check. Suddenly, I felt that warm gust of air. I listened. There were soft footsteps. A shadow seemed to cross the hall door. And then the footsteps blended into a loud bang.
No, not yet. I've still got 1 day more. Not yet.
Dunning, it's me.
Oh, thank heaven. Harry.
What's the matter, man? What is it?
It was you knocking on the door. Your footsteps.
Yes, of course.
Oh, thank heaven. I thought
Look, man, you've got to pull yourself together. It's tonight we have our chance.
What chance?
Carswell leaves Victoria Station by boat train tonight at 10. I'll get on with him there. You take the car I brought and drive to Croydon. Get on the train there. And be sure to bring the paper.
Yes, I have it.
You've shaved already. Good. Everything depends on his not recognizing you.
This Harrington. Suppose he changes his mind. Suppose he doesn't take that trip. My time runs out tomorrow.
He'll be there, and you'll do it. You'll do it well. You've got to.
I stood on the platform at Croydon, my mind in a daze. I thought the train would never come, but it did. I saw Harrington at the window. He stared coolly at me. Of course, there was to be no sign of recognition. I entered the coach and slowly made my way down the aisle to the compartment where Harrington sat. Opposite him, staring full into my face, was Carswell. He looked up as I sat down. His eyes were heavy-lidded, his face bland. It was impossible to tell whether he knew. The train started. The next stop was Dover, at the end of the line. My last chance. It was time to cast the runes. It was a strange ride. Carswell and I seated face to face, staring into each other's eyes. Harrington off to the side, pulling at his face with twitching fingers. If I could have only had a few whispered moments with him to plan our strategy, but that was impossible. The moments dragged tortuously. No one moved. Then, suddenly, Carswell leaned forward.
I beg your pardon, sir. Haven't we met?
Met? Well, I don't think so, sir. Not unless you're in the plumbing business.
Plumbing? No, hardly.
I hadn't planned it that way. The words, the accent, just seemed to come by themselves. And Carswell sat back, an enigmatic expression on his face. I wished desperately to know what he was thinking. Then suddenly he got up and went out into the corridor. Was this my chance? I was about to slip over to his bags to see if there were a way to secrete the rooms within them, when I caught Harrington's eye and read a warning in them. Carswell from the corridor was watching, waiting to see if we recognized each other. I muttered a prayer of thanks I hadn't moved. Carswell came back and took his seat. As he did so, wild, exultant hope surged up in my throat. for something slipped off his seat and dropped noiselessly to the floor. It was his ticket case, and he didn't see it. It was a small cardboard ticket case with a pocket on the cover. If I could just get to it and slip that tiny piece of paper into that pocket. For 15 agonizing minutes, I sat there and stared at it. If only Carswell would go out. But he sat stolidly staring straight ahead. We were coming into the outskirts of Dover. The train was slowing down. Suddenly, Harrington stood up, reached up to the rack above Carswell to get his coat and bag. I stared at him blankly for a moment, surprised by his sudden clumsiness. And then I realized what he was up to. The bag, the coat, the briefcase all came tumbling down upon Carswell.
What the devil?
Oh, I say I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry.
You clumsy fool, you might have injured me. What were you trying to do?
Well, it was my only chance. Carswell stood facing Harrington. I reached down, got the ticket case, and with trembling fingers slid the paper into the pocket. He turned sharply to me, and I extended the case toward him.
Excuse me, sir. Is this yours? Yes, it's my ticket case. Where'd you find it? Here on the floor. Must have dropped off when... Yes. I'm much obliged to you, sir. Not at all. Not at all.
He looked at me fiercely, his rage at Harrington still twisting his face into a devil's mask. Then he glanced briefly into the ticket case and put it into his pocket. On the railway pier at Dover, Harrington and I followed a few steps behind Carswell. I felt like I might faint. Carswell went straight to the gangway of the boat, and there the purser stopped him.
So does your friend have a ticket?
My friend? What the devil do you mean? I'm traveling alone.
Well, that's funny. I could have sworn there was another gentleman right there beside you, walking just at your elbow.
Well, there isn't. And I suggest you see an oculist.
Oh, I didn't see. I just felt. Sorry, sir. Must have been your rugs. My mistake.
Come on, Dunning. Our job's done.
I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake and listened. But there were no footsteps, no warm gusts of air, nothing to disturb me. All day I felt remarkably free, although this was to have been my last day on Earth. But only just now, when Harrington came in, could I really relax.
Dunning, have you seen the afternoon paper yet?
I know, not yet.
Well, here, look at it. On the second page. There.
Abbeville, France. An English traveler examining the front of St. Wolfram's Cathedral today was struck on the head and killed instantly by a stone falling from the scaffolding. A note of mystery was added by the fact that although the cathedral was undergoing repairs, no workman was on the scaffolding at the time of the accident. The traveler was identified by papers found on him as a Mr. Carswell of Warwickshire.
Of course, it could have been an accident.
Yes. Yes, it could have been.
Escape is produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and tonight brought you Casting the Runes by Montague R. James, adapted for radio by Irving Ravitch and John Dunkel, with John McIntyre as Edward Dunning, Jan Wolfe as Harrington, and Bill Conrad as Carswell. The special musical score was conceived and conducted by Cy Fure. Next week,
you are trapped in a hidden valley, high in the Andes, walled in by sheer rock precipices, and surrounding you, closing in on you, is a band of blind men who want your eyes.
Oh, man.
next week we escape with H.G. Wells' gripping story, The Country of the Blind. Good night, then, until this same time next week when we again offer you Escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
There you go. just love this show. It really is one of my favorite radio shows. One of the finest shows of its day, and not super popular, not not the kind of show that people are always talking about in old time radio circles. And yeah, something. First off, let's get down to business here. Raphael is saying, and then to bed for a good night's sleep. Good night, Raphael. I'm so glad you joined us. You were exactly who I was thinking of when I chose this night and this time for this show. And I definitely hope that you can join us again, and that lots of folks on the East Coast get to listen to this show and maybe make it their nightcap. That would be fantastic. Joe Townsend says, official request for Country of the Blind. The next episode of Escape that they're promoting, of course. And Raphael says, second that. You got it. You got it. Country of the Blind is going on the list. It will be one of those shows that we listen to probably after Halloween, because we're going to be keeping with the Halloween theme of very dark, mysterious subjects. And there will be stories like Kingdom of the Blind or Country of the Blind from H.G. Wells. How cool is this series? I love it. And Joe Townsend, an excellent author in his own right, says, not pure escapism, a little challenging for casual listening. I have to agree. I'm sorry, Joe. I know the announcer said that next week's episode would be Country of the Blind, but no, it's going to be something else. And Raphael says, no, the audience after that preview, I am in for the long haul tonight. That's awesome. Well, we're done. Can I come in under, where's my time? Can I come in under an hour? Because that means it's easier for people to see this episode if we keep it down to an hour. Next Thursday night, I promised we will deliver. We're going to be listening to The Haunting of Sherlock Holmes from the New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, a radio show that featured Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. And it's going to be fun. You guys will have a lot of fun. I kind of love the mixture of the supernatural with detectives and mysteries, because there is always that thing of like, it's not the supernatural, I don't think. But supernatural things don't exist, but maybe they do. And I always love that kind of sweet spot in mystery writing. So not only that, but while I got you, of course, we talked about Retro Trekkers on Saturday. That will be at 5. And as usual, on Sunday, we've got our show Retro Rangers. And our guest, Tony Luna, and my co-host, Joe Townsend, have both seen our featured watch party movie of Sunday night, and that is Night of the Living Dead. I'm reading our title, which is Night of the Retro Dead. I've never seen this movie. I've never seen Night of the Living Dead. I actually like zombie fiction, so I should see it. So anyway, that's it. We should get out of here. I want to keep it up to an hour. Thanks everyone for joining us. And, yes. Thank you, Raphael. They are great graphics. And they are Joe's work. Joe is a fantastic. All right, I'm going to have to jump out of this mat. Good night, and thank you for watching with us. And hey, come on back to the Weber Internet for more radio in the future.